All right. Well, good morning, you guys. Specifically today, we wanted to walk through kind of showing you guys a little bit about the contact piece of our CRM. And so when we look at a lot of the tools and services and things that we offer at Coldwell Banker, this is one of those that is pretty awesome. And hopefully you guys are utilizing it. And if you're not, maybe you'll start today. So what we want to talk about is going to be the contact CRM, or the customer relationship management aspect of the back office tool of myCBCrown. And so we start this journey by going to myCBCrown.com, right, which will automatically bring you to, let me log out of it real quick though, which will bring you to this page here. So if you're unfamiliar with this page, then you better come talk to me so I get you your username and we can reset your password for you. So when we come in here, you all should have a username and password. You'll go ahead, you'll fill that in. You can hit save user ID if you want, and then you'll hit the login piece. Now, the back side of this thing is where you'll start to see the magic. Now, I created a specific training account just to kind of show you guys what it may look like from your side. So right now there's 0 contacts, 0 messages, and 0 active listings because this account was created 20 minutes ago. Okay, so but the piece that we're really going to talk about is if I expand my menu over here, you'll see this section here are all the fundamental tools, right? And so I've shared little things that I found over the past, couple months and over the year, I guess, really, that we've been utilizing this system. Some great little features inside of there. There's some cool marketing stuff. The email campaigns are pretty awesome. The ability to customize the campaigns is great. So there's a lot of functionality that we can begin to use. But specifically today, I want to talk to you about the CRM, so this customer relationship piece. Now, there's a couple ways we can get to it. Of course, you can always use the full scale menu over here, right? And that's going to be those 2 little people head right there. Or you can always come in on this upper left-hand side, you'll see contacts and leads. Now, your contacts and leads are defined, right? Contacts are people that you enter. Leads are inquiries that come and they are directed to you. So whether that's from your website, the company website, through any of the social media network stuff that we do, all that kind of stuff that ends up having a home and specifically requests you as their agent or wants you to contact them, that's when you're going to see that lead count begin to rise. Now, again, you're never going to know the difference in your contacts versus leads on the dashboard here. But where you are going to notice them is once you actually go into the CRM module or the product tier of the back office solution. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to click on contacts and leads on the bottom side over here. And here is where you will find them. So on the top, here is where you're going to notice the difference between your contacts and leads, right? So if you've accepted leads through the system, you will see leads will start to count upward. And the more contacts you add, you will also start to see that count upward, okay? So I have 0 leads. If I click on contacts, it'll tell me I have 0 contacts. And then lastly, you can see a combined view if you'd rather see them all together. Now, along the top side here, you'll see our favorite button, which is the new, right? You do have the ability to delete a contact. So if you've scrubbed them and you decide that they're not worthy of being maintained, or they got really snarky and they told you, please don't ever call me, you can always do a full removal on that side. You have your contact types. This is an area that you can actually customize for what kind of a contact you want or how you want to label that individual. And so here you can see I don't have any that I've custom added. There are some default ones in the system, but then you can customize it however you want. You also have the ability to add custom fields. So this is a spot here where you can create a custom field, and I'll walk you through where maybe you might want to do that for your own things, because you may want to track certain components. Maybe you really want to track like kids' names, dog name, any type of job history, or whatever you would like to track. You would have the ability to add a custom field inside of here. I'm going to go back to my contacts here. Then you do have the ability to import your contacts, right? So if you have a list somewhere, so like a good example is, maybe you do a mailing list, right? Or if you really want to just start with the basics, you could, if you've sold something and you've utilized the buyer follow-up program, you could go to that website, download all of the contacts from there that are receiving a direct mail campaign, and you could import them. On the import side, let me make sure you can see this little dialog window. Okay, so on this side, when you hit import, this is the wizard that's going to essentially walk you through it, right? So then you do have the option you have to import a file, right? So a CSV file is what you're going to end up finding. And then you start telling us, okay, tell us about that, right? So a CSV is going to be just a real basic comma separated file, first names in one row, last names in the next, address, so on and so forth. And it's going to say, well, does this have headers? Yes or no, right? What kind of file format is it? 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a CSV or a comma separated value file. You could import it into contacts or leads, which bucket, right? So if you're doing a third-party lead source, let's say, and you wanted to dump all of those in here so you had all of your contacts in one area to manage, you could dump them into leads so that they're tracked appropriately. You can then define your lead source as well, okay? And then you can, as far as the user side here, you're going to leave that as yourself and who the owner is. You would hit next, but because I don't have, I guess, a file, right, it won't let me do that. So maybe that's another session we'll do a different day, is to kind of walk through what that would look like there. Let me bring back my screen here. All right, so then this one right here, that's the import. If you wanted to export your contacts, right? So if you wanted to send them out to labels or something like that, you can actually walk through the export. The purging feature is a way just to walk through to say, hey, can we find duplicate contacts? Can we find, people that have maybe the same phone number in an area but have different names, and you can start to purge them. And it's a way to clean up your stuff. And then lastly is your label merge function here, which this is what's going to allow you to actually basically create, the standard sticky address labels that you print. The Avery 5160 is the specific label, but then you could actually print all those out. So if you wanted to do your mailings and stuff from here, you would be able to do that. Like I do Christmas cards as an example. And this would be something that we would be able to do right through here based upon a specific label and field. And I'll show you how we can do that later. So that's on the top side, kind of looking at this. Again, you come down, you do get your filter option. So as you start to get more contacts in here, you can start going, well, when were they last updated, added, minimum price, max price, sourcing, status, right? And then ultimately they have some different routing pieces here, which is sort of erroneous for you guys. Contact types, you'll see there are no custom ones created, right? And I don't have any, so you can't select. And then anybody who's using your portal feature. So your website through the back office of myCBCrown, your website there actually has a full portal available to the MLS, which is another really great option if you want to keep people around your branding instead of using like North Star's notification. You can use your portal notification through a property watch and do that there as well, which is pretty cool. So those are the filter options. Down over here, you can create custom views, which is probably another session in and of itself. You choose the number of display records you want per page. It defaults to 25. And then if you just want to do a basic search for somebody right through here, you can. First name, last name, phone, ID, whatever you have. Down the right-hand side, you'll see that we have your ability just to jump to those particular letters in your contact base. So as your contacts start to grow, that's probably going to become fruitful. So first up, the big thing here is let's go ahead, let's jump in, let's create a new one. So I'm going to click on new, and this is the first screen that you're going to get. So one of the things that you would be able to do is come back inside of here, and I'm going to use my friend Betty the buyer. So Betty and I got connected somehow. Could be, let's say Betty came from an open house, right? So Betty and I met at an open house. So as I'm going to come in and make sure I follow up with her, I'm going to say, all right, so Betty's name, I'm going to enter here. I'm going to get her email. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to start hitting some of her contact information here. So the source, I'm going to change that and I'm going to call that the open house. Status. So here you can actually see that you have active buyer, active seller, bogus, closed, dead, incubating, new, or under contract. So depending upon the status of where this particular contact is, you would change them. At this point, I met Betty. Betty would be an active buyer is what I would flag her as. You can, this is where it gets a little bit different. So you can actually choose your funneling by buying and selling and then where they are in the process, right? So at the top level, you can say this is a buyer or a seller or it's not applicable, right? So not applicable, it could be if you're putting somebody in your sphere of influence. Not applicable could be if it's, somebody that you met at a chamber event, right? Or something along those lines where you still want to stay in contact with them, but they're not in that active funnel quite yet, right? So that's where at the high level, you could say this is a buyer. And if I say an active buyer, it probably means to me, Betty, that means we haven't found anything. But once I flip Betty to under contract, now that changes her status in the pipeline, right? And so then when I go to filter and I know who do I want to talk to today, like every Friday personally, I like to have a conversation with my sellers, right? So if you have a listing with me, you and I are going to have a phone call or a message or some sort of an update every Friday morning. And so that's where I could change this as well, come in, filter, and then make all those contacts. But in this situation, as I said, we just met her in an open house, so she's an active buyer, and I'm going to leave her in the buyer platform. Maybe some things that I met about Betty. Did I figure out where she works? I'm going to say she works for ABC Company as a marketing director. And this field is limited in characters, which really kind of bugs me. And I did send a request in on that. So I'm going to just say marketing director, address 123 somewhere, because she gave me her address when she came in. Let's see here. Anytown, Minnesota. Maybe I'm going to say, her zip code's 51234. Probably don't have a website. Maybe Betty has Barry. Right? Barry buyer here as well. If they have any kids, maybe you found that out. And when you find out a date of birth, I always like, happy birthday messages. So if you find it out, you can always enter it, but it's possible maybe you only learned a little bit here, right? The display name here, if you want to, I don't ever use this, but some people I know will use this and they'll say, they'll put Barry and Betty buyer here, right? So that way you have the name of both, and I'll show you what that looks like. If you got Barry's email, you could put it here as a second email. Instead of setting Barry up as a second contact, you could just set him up here. And maybe, let's see here. Just make up some number there. I don't know whose number that is, by the way. And then from there, you can kind of come down. You can say, well, if you find, a social media profile. So like here, what it does is it's going to use the email that you gave them, and it's going to go out and it's going to search. Now, because this is a made up email, it's probably not going to find anything out there, right? And then if you had a transaction, so if you're entering past clients, this is a really great thing. If you know when was the last time they bought something and where did they buy, when was the last time they sold something and where did they sell it? What was the address of that? This is helpful if you start thinking about trying to prospect for people and like, where am I going to go? These are some fields here that you would really find some value in as you start to get into the reporting features, okay? Now, this is the basic info tab, so we fill out as much of that as we can. If you click on the family tab, there are no custom fields here at this point in time, okay? So this is the initial entry page right here, and so all I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit save. Process completes. Now you'll notice I get a lot more on the screen. You'll notice that Betty's information shows up here, okay? Her email and her phone, which is great. I have the ability to one-click email her right from the system. I'm not going to save that. You can also then log a call, right? So if you called Betty, what did you discuss here? And you can log the call to history. And then if you sent her a text message, right? This is kind of interesting. You do have the ability to send from this device as it goes out, but you can use custom templates and things like that. That's, again, probably a whole nother piece of the day. You can also then come up on the first thing you can do is look at scheduling your follow-up. So if you and Betty met at the open house and I want to say, I really want to follow up with Betty, I'm going to schedule a new item, right? And I might just simply say this, follow up. You can title it follow up on interest on 123 Main Street. So you can say, is this just a follow-up request? Do I want to add them to a campaign? What's my reminder that I want to do here, right? Most of the time you're going to just put follow-up request. And maybe my notes is going to say, Betty, I'll just say Betty mentioned wanting to bring husband Barry through next week, right? So just a reminder of what's going to happen here comes from my notebook or whatever I'm doing at an open house. Let's say today is the 11th. Maybe I want to make that call on Saturday, right? If you're working Saturdays. And let's say I'm going to set it for 10:30 as a reminder. Now you say, so that's when I want to do the activity. But now here's your notification. So when is the reminder going to hit you, right? When is the reminder going to email you? You'll actually get a summary of activities from the back office system for the day that you tell it to notify you. So if you say, I want a same day notification, but I want that sent to me at 8 a.m., or maybe I'm an early riser and I want that thing sent to me at 7 a.m. So now I'm going to get the action, right? The follow-up is scheduled for Saturday at 10:30, but I'm going to get an email notification saying, hey, Brandon, you need to call Betty today at 10:30. So I'll get that email that I'll be able to check to. And then you can assign this you're going to leave it assigned to you. If you had a team or you start working and getting it like an assistant coming in or something like that, you can always use that as a different box to transition tasks between each other. So then that's the basics, right? And then I just hit schedule and away I go, right? So now my process is complete. If I want to see what's going on, under my actions, what's going to happen? That's where I'm going to see right here, follow up on 123 Main Street. It's assigned to me, and I need to do that in 2 days. I can also then come back and you can hit your snowman if you wanted to do your print emails, merge, delete, or save functions. Okay, so that's just all on the top side there. Your contact information on the basic tab, you'll see all of that information kind of flows over. It looks very, very familiar, except for you'll notice the cell phone field moved to the top because there's data there. Okay. On the family side, there's still no fields there, which is a question I have for, that's an improvement that they're working on because I think it's important to track family members. The action plans area over here. So this is where if you were to come in and assign somebody an action plan. So an action plan is going to be a little different than a campaign. A campaign would be, I want to send you, the company holiday greetings, right? So I could tell Betty, I say, I want to add her to the campaign. And, here is the holiday campaign, right? So we're going to send on Christmas Eve, we're going to send the happy holiday. That's going to be the next one up. Then on Father's Day, and it's going to go all the way around to the next one, right? So you can hit the preview. What does that look like? Oh, happy holidays. Except for if from CB Training, it would say you and your contact information there. You go, okay, well, that sounds great. I'm going to activate the holiday campaign to Betty the buyers, right? So this one, last sent never, it is active. It will send around Christmas time at this point, okay? So, and you can set up your own campaigns inside of here as well, whatever kind of an automatic drip you want for people. Maybe you decide to run like a newsletter right through myCBCrown here. You run a monthly newsletter. Well, you could have a campaign in here that says, Betty Buyer's monthly newsletter, and I could come through and I could add to the Betty Buyer campaign, and it would be listed in here if I set that up, right? So then I could do that. An action plan, if I come through, so these would be specifically as, what are we doing and how we're going to contact these people. And that's where we've created a handful of them, right? That just simply says, hey, buyer action plan says, buying, here's the ease of the process. This is going to send immediately when I send it in a week. In 12 days from today, 15 from now, 21 and 26, right? So even if you just wanted to utilize the real simple one, like, hey, buyer action plan, boom, and I can add Betty to that, right? So now not only is Betty receiving an action plan specific to the transaction that we're in the midst of, but now she's also receiving campaigns just from marketing in a drip perspective. Okay, so that's where they're different. Campaigns are more of a marketing strategy. Action plans are things that we're trying to do to produce action from that person. As you come down, you'll see contact activities here. Anytime that you start talking with Betty or you do something here, it'll start to populate here. So if I wanted to log a call, left message, thanking for attending open house. And I can just log that call to the history, which is totally fine. Let's see here. So then back in the history, I'll see call by, and I'll see if this will pre-populate. Okay. Oh, this is going to come down to anything from the campaigns or the action plans. So once the action plans and campaigns start rolling, you'll start to see those activities there. Here is your contact types. You remember we talked about how you can create custom ones, right? So if you click on add contact types, you see there are none right here. Maybe you want to track open house people, right? So if you meet them, so maybe we're going to add them to the open house. Let's see here. No, I have to go. There we go. Add contact type. And so now I can add them there. You know, if you follow like Buffini, you know, maybe you're going to rank your clients A, B, C, and D clients. You could do that inside of here as well. You could add a contact type that says, an A client, B client, C client, D client. You could do that. You could think of them like tags, right? You can tag as many things as you want. You can make somebody a contact type. If they're a father and a son, you might create two contact types, right? Contacts that are fathers and contacts that are sons, right? Same thing here. Somebody who's in your sphere of influence comparative to somebody who is a past client who, you know, is somebody you want to, you play on the curling club with or whatever, right? So you can create as many of those contact types as you would like. On the left-hand side here, you'll see the notes field. So you can start adding notes here as well. You know, if you have some specialty things, you know, Betty and Barry, they mentioned they have 3 kids and 7 dogs, right? Or whatever other contact you want to keep a hold of. And now, see, there you go. Now it populated. So now you can see my note here as well. Just going back, left message, right? That was a call. Little symbol on the left-hand side. Okay, so I left a call thanking them for attending the open house. And then at 9:24, a little bit later, the last thing is I added just a note here with some information about them. And if I want to add more, I just hit that little plus sign and away you go. But as you text, message, email, this notes field will continue to grow and grow and grow. It's a way just to remember kind of what you did. So last time you called, you know, I can just say, oh, yep, I left you a message for that. And here's kind of the next piece. So lots of options that you can do there. The social media, again, if you come through and if they populate anything, great. Sometimes it'll search LinkedIn. It will search Facebook across a lot of the socials. You can actually mark it as invalid too and just say, you know, they're not on social media or whatever, right? And you can always run a recheck if they ever decide. And again, there's that last transaction piece if you were to ever come into that space there. So when I come out of this, what I'm just going to do, right? So I've met Betty at an open house. I was working on the whole process. Here it is. It's great. And I close this thing down. Now, if I come back to my contacts and leads, you'll see now here is my friend Betty Byer, right? So even when I first log in, now you're going to notice my gauge at the top says 1. I've now created my first contact. And I've put somebody in here with as much information as I can get. Now, you remember, it loads the leads. She's not a lead. She's over on the contacts because that's what I created her as, not as a lead source, remember? So now we have a reference ID, status indicator, activity. So this little circle, the more emails we send, the more times she logs into our portal, the more activity this will begin to show. Then the follow-up, it'll say, well, what do you got going on? You got 1 phone call scheduled. You know, what did you discuss? You can say, I sent him a text real quick, and you can log it if you want. You can also just send him a quick email from here. Maybe you have default letters and content, you know, inside of here that you want to bring in. And you can do that too. So like if you have the inspection letter as an example that you always send the same thing, this would be a great spot to set up a template and then just email that right from here as part of an action plan for new people under contract. And then same thing here, you hit the little snowman, you can edit, send an email, we can add to a campaign, add a note, add an action like, oh, instead of having to log all the way in here, I can simply say, Betty said they were interested in viewing MLS 612-345-6789. I need to make sure I look at that later today. I'm just going to schedule that real quick to make sure that I know that I got to do that. Process complete, and now we're fine. Okay, so that's the quick, again, just real kind of simple way of looking at your contacts, okay, to kind of see, so well, who's in here and what are they doing, and that's where you can start to come back and look at these guys. So now we have a handful of people that we can begin to work with and have conversations with, and now we can continue to start adding more and more and more. So, and you can do, again, utilizing that just by using the new feature on the top and creating the log, if you will. Your contact types, again, you'll see we created the open house one, right? So what I can do, I'm just going to call them an A, client A. And we'll come in and I'm just going to start having a couple of these in here so that you can see kind of what's going on. So there you go, you guys. Kind of the real fundamental, quick, easy version of adding contacts inside of Back at You. Do you have any questions as it relates to this really quick? Otherwise, we'll probably just keep moving forward through some of this. I know once you get somebody in here, then you always get a lot of questions like, well, what are all these tabs along the top side? And we can all get into that as we go over the next week or so. But I want to honor our time from 9 to 9:30.
How did you get to this actual page?
Yeah, so when you guys log in on the back side, so when you get myCBCrown.com, right, will bring you to the back office solution that the company provides for you. And then when you log in, this will be the home screen that you'll see, and you can either get to it by this indicator right here, and then just choosing this link, or this link right here. And if you don't know, then you can always expand the menu over here, and you'll see it says customer relationship.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions?
Brandon, will you go over drip campaigns maybe in the future as far as making them? And okay.
Yep, you bet. We can work on campaigns. Are you thinking action or marketing?
Action probably. I guess I'm just thinking about the ones that maybe he's got on auto email, on Matrix.
Yep.
Where would you consider them? You know, the ones that are just kind of looking and not sure they want to do anything, but you don't want them to jump ship either. So
yeah, so then I would call that an action plan. So it's somebody that we're trying to just stay engaged with. We want them to take action. We want to know where they're at, right? Like you could put, I could put my mom in here and put her on a marketing campaign, right, to receive holiday cards and that kind of stuff. But what I really want is action campaigns, or things I want people to take action on. I want them to buy. I want them to call me to list their property or whatever. And so from that aspect, that's where we would start to look at it and go, okay, what would be an action plan for somebody like that? And we can certainly look at creating those. Yep, that would be easy.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll write that down right now. Any other questions? All right. Well, thanks, you guys. Hope you have a great rest of your day. We will talk to you in the near future. Happy selling.